It was a side of the road fruit stand in Rossville, Georgia that my grandparents bought for $1,500. There wasn't a Publix, there wasn't a Food City to go get your produce from. My granddad and then my dad sold a lot of produce. It was at the beginning of COVID, and somebody said, Cole, somebody's here to see you. Somebody from Hamilton County and the health department. And I mean, we are jamming. I mean, we've got 150 plus cars in the parking lot. Sun's out. I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I see his badge, and I'm like, I don't like the looks of this. And he goes, you got a minute? It would be well over a million plants. We sell 17,000 hanging basket ferns a year. The week of Masters Week, we sell about 2,000 azaleas that week alone.
Cole, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's
got a really nice place.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. For those that don't know, Cole, you're president of the Barn Nursery, third generation of the Barn Nursery.
Absolutely.
You guys have been crushing. Like, I know a lot of people probably think of like a nursery, like, okay, we're selling some plants, but you guys are 8-figure business, top 10 in the country for a single location. Like, you guys are killing it.
We're lucky to be in Chattanooga. We have, but my dad and mom, really set things up, with a lot of the right customers, right vendors, a lot of those things. So I've been in a really cool situation to kind of get to grow things. But it's one of those things like, sometimes people are like, you're doing this, and this, and I'm like, well, I will say that the road was paved pretty well, but we're also here in Chattanooga where things are just exploding. So we've been able to kind of take some of the success that we've had through all of our retail sales and grow that with selling more and more houseplants to people in apartments, to selling to developers that are building, to selling to more businesses as downtown continues to grow. So it's kind of been it's a pretty exciting space to be in. It's not all easy, and there's certainly issues that we'll dive into, like there is with any business and in life in general. But I think that it's a really cool time though to be in Chattanooga, and especially being from Chattanooga, like you are, getting to see some of this growth, and a lot of it are things that I know I dreamed about. Like, oh yeah, that would be amazing, and like downtown being as great as it is, having such a vibrant food scene and things like that is just amazing. I mean, I know where I live on the south side, it was there was nothing there when we were in high school. So,
it was rough, super rough part of town.
Exactly. So, and now, spending my life savings on a house down there. So, so
property taxes kind of bite us on the ass now. That's the only downside.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But it's worth it, to have a growing city. And I remember growing up, before the aquarium was there, because I grew up right downtown. And my dad bought a house on Battery Place. He still has it.
Oh, nice.
And it's back in 76 or 78 for $50,000, like $52,000.
Yeah. I'll give him 60 for it.
I know, right? Yeah. And he's still there, but the property tax have to be crushing, But before the aquarium, I remember us riding bikes as a kid down like the waterfront and riverfront. Mm-hmm. And it was a shithole, there's nothing downtown.
Yeah.
It was, the only restaurant that time was it 212 Market that that finally closed? I think that was the only restaurant. Then Big River came in.
River. Yeah.
That was kind of the first big one, the brewery. And then when the aquarium hit, it was just like it started blowing up.
Right. Yeah.
But now you fast forward 20 years and it's completely different. The Riverwalk.
Absolutely.
And, having to expand the interstate for all the traffic coming in. And everywhere we look, see you guys plants now. Seems like commercial properties, and you were mentioning earlier, Hunter Museum, Ruby Falls, Rock City,
So, and a lot of that, excitement of seeing that is over the years, because our industry is pretty small. We've always known the big players in bigger cities and things like that, and went and seen friends in D.C. or the Boston area, or even up in Michigan, California, all these different places. And you see areas where, the whole downtown is revitalized. You have all these planters, all these hanging baskets. And, it would be, traveling I've always been like, man, that would be great. Or, I'm always taking pictures of plants, nice hotels, all these different things. And we're getting that, and, we work a lot with Vision Hospitality, and, they're building that new hotel, and, they have the Edwin, they have all these different properties and tons of other, developments throughout town, like Cambridge Square. I mean, who would have thought something like that? I remember the first time I went to a friend's house out in Ooltewah, in the 6th grade, I was like, man, this is out here. Yeah. And then now, I mean, look at it. So, yeah, I mean, and so now, I mean, a lot of those developments we would see, in bigger markets, it was like, man, I wish we could see things like this. Even when I was in high school, I would go on some of those trips with my parents, and then now, knowing that we have a few hundred hanging baskets and I don't know, a few thousand pots downtown, with our flowers in it every year is pretty special to see, and it's a point of pride for us.
Yeah, it's got to be. And you bring up a good point. Like, whenever you think about the bigger cities, like usually it's just more and more concrete, right? Like more buildings, more concrete, less greenery. Like they really have to fight for those greenscapes and those green places. And so that's really where like the landscaping comes into play. You've got to bring that back into it.
Absolutely, and it is exciting, seeing the National Park City movement. I know you and I've talked back and forth on social media a little bit. I've seen a few of your posts, and commented, and we've talked back and forth, via text or
curiosity about it.
Yeah, and but I think that that one of the biggest things is that there's more biodiversity than anywhere in the world, other than one place, literally on the opposite side of the map in China. In like a 30-mile radius of Chattanooga, Tennessee, because we have all these little microclimates and stuff, so you can grow more species of plants. You can also grow more weeds than anywhere else. So I bet everybody knows that, but it's really cool. There's not many places that have the mountains, the river, and then our downtown, all the small businesses, and for a town our size, the amenities, we fight outside our weight class, and that's something we actually talked about a little bit earlier. But it's to be able to have rock climbing, mountain biking, hiking, and a great downtown like we have,
water sports, the river right through downtown,
right? Yeah. I mean, and we have our boat right there on the river. I mean, it's always a great time, and it's just, and the secret's out. I guess everybody knows now Chattanooga's a pretty great place.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's wild to talk about all this now, and like the thousands of plants, just on like the commercial side and downtown. But then you've got all the, you've got like the B2C side, business to consumer side, where you're, of course, selling house plants, people in apartments, condos, homes. But then you got like the landscaping side, where you're selling for whether it's residential or commercial projects. But all this started was I was reading some articles about you guys, 1968, and it was you guys bought
1967.
1967. It was $1,500. You bought the barn, and it was a stand, right?
So it was a side of the road fruit stand in Rossville, Georgia, that my grandparents bought for $1,500. But I will say, there wasn't a Publix, there wasn't a Food City to go get your produce from. So my granddad and then my dad sold a lot of produce. I actually was talking to a guy the other day or yesterday, and he was working on a project somewhere where I was, and he saw my shirt and stopped me and talked to me, and he was like, I remember going to the barn when it was in Rossville. He's like, do you remember that? And I go, it'd be hard for me to, because we moved our location the year before I was born. So, and at that time, we were actually renting the space from Carter Fowler and their family. Yeah. And then in the early 2000s, my parents purchased the property and tore down a building, built the big greenhouses, and we keep plugging away there.
Yeah, I mean, that's great property because you're in 2475, and I mean, I forgot the traffic count there, but it's substantial.
It's very high, yeah.
And it's perfect because the Missionary Ridge is a complete, disaster for traffic, and it just backs up, and they all sit there right in front of your place.
Exactly.
It's kind of the perfect scenario for you all. You have so much frontage. Yeah.
It's great. We get a lot of people from out of town that stop in. A lot of people make us one of their stops on vacation. They're like, it's a good place to stretch our legs, use the restroom, and maybe buy a plant or some pottery. And so
it's like, we're in traffic. Let's go buy an orchid. Like,
yeah.
Screw this traffic.
Yeah,
we need a new plant.
I mean, I would do anything other than sit in traffic.
Yeah.
So that's we definitely have some positives there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's come a long ways, because you went from $1,500 and now all these plants and 8-figure business, and I mean, obviously there's a lot more to, I was thinking through this as well before you came in. Like, if I was trying to manage a business like this, I know nothing about what you guys do in the management, but it seems like the supply side could be, there's a lot of hoops to jump from. You mentioned that you're buying plants all the way out as far as Oregon and then shipping them across the country. And
absolutely.
And the way you guys,
Canada,
the way you guys pick the suppliers, like you were telling me earlier about, like, they're all the way down to the seeds, like they're very selective. And
the tissue culture and everything. So a lot of our growers, so one of our growers that we buy a good bit from is Monrovia. We're one of their large single customers, and we work with them a lot. But when you go to their facilities, they have their R&D departments. They're like, turn your phone off, and you have to have like authorization to go in there. But it's because I think they have 100 different types of soil medium that they grow in. So like they're not putting aloe in the same soil that they grow coneflowers in. They're not putting the houseplants in the same thing they're putting a woody shrub in. And so you can see all that out there, and they're managing that. They're managing all the inputs of that, but they're also managing where they're getting their liners and who's growing that for them, whether they're doing it or they're working with another vendor on that. But I liken it a lot of times to, it's like a champion breed hunting dog, and so sometimes people will be like, well, I want this locally grown. I'm like, well, a lot of what we have is grown in the state of Tennessee or in Georgia. Monrovia has a Georgia location as well. But there's certain things that are grown better in certain climates, like Oregon, for instance, because of the temperate climate there. You get so many more days where things can push growth and grow, and I can walk through somewhere and tell you where something's been grown. And so if you get it grown to, a good size out there, it's set up for success. Just like, but they start down to the genetics to the soil, to the care, to the pruning, and and that's what that's the quality that you get. And I know, like, we have some spirals that you'll see at the barn. We kind of have them displayed up front, a bunch of different topiaries and things like that. And they actually will have them sectioned off in the fields and show how many years it takes to get to like the big spiral. And a lot of times it's about a 7-year process. And so you go through and you'll see just the liner that's, a 2-year-old plant. Then you go to the next block, they're 3 years old, they're starting to take shape. And then on up to 5 and 7 year where they're mature and they look perfect. And then you look at it and you realize how much time, labor, and everything's been spent on it, and you're like, okay, this is actually a very, very good deal for what what is going into it compared to other things. We don't sell a manufactured product.
Right.
It's grown, it's cared for, and very thoughtfully selected by us and our growers. And we only work with people that stand behind their product because, we're satisfaction guaranteed. And, we, if you've got a problem, and if you've ever had a problem at the barn, we want to take care of it. We want to deal with it. And, that's been the key to our success is, if something ever goes wrong, something ever goes awry, we're going to make it right. And I've got tons of stories about, things that haven't went exactly right, but we made it right, and that's the only way you can do good business, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was reading one of the quotes. I think you had an article in the Cityscope magazine, but talking about how, like, you start. I think you had a meeting, said big meetings twice a year, and you start the meeting by identifying who the big boss is, and that's your customers. And
Exactly,
that's so true, because you've got to get that one referral business, which you guys have done a great job. Between all the different organizations you're part of here locally, the events you go to, the people you help raise money for, but then also, like, even the way, like, the messaging, all of that, like, it's a lot of humility to it, to where, like, the customers are always right, sort of thing. It's obviously worked great for Amazon. Works great for companies. Works great for you guys too. And it's got to help that success you all have seen.
Well, and you're right. I mean, we in the meetings that we have, because the article that you were talking about was talking about being a third generation person, and and I think that well, one of my friends that's a Catholic said our church is the same every week, and he's like, well, it's like a love poem to your girlfriend. If it's good enough right now, it should be good enough 5 years from now. And I kind of, when he said that, I actually, the way my brain works, I thought, I'm like, well, you know what, I open the same way of those meetings that my dad always has, because it's the reason why we are where we are. And I know some people that they want to put their own stamp on the business, and and I've done that in a lot of ways, but the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And when it's certainly not broke and it's working, we want to do it the same, because I also tell our employees that and our team, I say, if everybody pulls out of this gate on a daily basis happier than they came in, and that can't happen every day with our employees.
Sure.
But as a general rule, if people are fulfilled at the end of the day, if our customers leave here and they feel like they've gotten a good value, they've gotten good service, they've gotten service that they're not going to get everywhere else, then it's a successful day, and it will always provide a good bottom line, because we're making sure we're buying right, we're making sure we're doing all the things that we need to do as operators. So as long as we're treating our customers, our employees right, I think that it always translates in a healthy bottom line.
Yeah, it's been, it'll be 60 years then in 2 years?
Yeah.
60th anniversary. So it's obviously paid off. So many businesses fail in the first couple of years, let alone, 10 years is a big mark, and now you're
right.
About to be 6 times that. How many employees do you guys have now, roughly? I'm sure probably.
So right now I've got 64, but we still stay under 50 employees for our full-time equivalent for the year. So we usually out of season are around 40. Okay. And then we go up in the fall, and then in the spring. Spring's by far our busiest season.
Okay. So. And then that property you got there is pretty substantial. So for those that haven't seen it, might be watching or listening, that's what, an acre, 2 acres? How?
7.6. So yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah. I'm bad at judging acreage, obviously.
Well, it's a long kind of pizza pie shaped piece of property. It doesn't get quite that narrow at the end. Maybe one that has a bite taken out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of more like a flag shape.
Okay.
And so, anyways, it's kind of hard to see all of it. But yeah, we've got a couple hundred parking spaces, which is good, and we've got 1.5 acres under roof.
Wow.
Almost one of those acres is destroyed right now.
Right.
With the hell. We're still open for business and still able to house our product in there and everything, but the roof has a lot of holes in it.
Yeah, man, I saw that. We were talking about earlier, but I saw the news channel through. That's the first thing I saw of it, of the drone footage. And man, that was crazy. This is the most hail I've ever seen. I think I also mentioned this earlier. Most hail I've ever seen in my entire life in Chattanooga in 1 year. Maybe all the years of me living here combined. It's hailed at least, I would say, a dozen times at my house this year. Mm-hmm. So bizarre. But it destroyed that roof you guys have. And you're showing me photos of hundreds of pounds of ice, it looked like in the netting.
Broke a steel cable and the shade cloth netting. So we have something for shade for the plants. that's right outside our greenhouse, and I mean it was weighed all the way to the ground and had broke a steel cable. So I mean it's pretty insane. And what's also crazy about it is I live like 1.2 miles away, and I showed you like our doormat had a few pieces on it, and I took a picture of the size of it. Little did I know the damage that was, just less than a mile and a half away.
You think my buddies and I have a joke now. Well, at least I have a joke. My buddies just probably laugh at me, but I think cloud seeding. I think we're stuck in cloud seeding now. This is the rainiest May I think we've ever had, is what they say.
Yeah. I don't know. but I will say that like I have had times where I mean it just kind of pops up out of nowhere, and I don't remember that happening other times. So
we've definitely been stuck in a rain cloud, which that's got to affect you guys because you hand water everything, right? Like all the plants, and when you're getting this much rain, does that affect your inventory and affect planting?
It does, and we know how to handle a lot of that. Not having a roof over certain areas has been exceptionally challenging, but yeah, I mean, it affects all that. It affects, customer patterns. I mean, the worst thing that you can have on a Saturday is the cloud emoji, or Moticon or whatever it is on your weather app. Because when people see that, there might be a 35% chance that it rains at some point during the day in Hamilton County.
Right.
And, it doesn't, but when people see that, they're like, okay, well, let's plan on, doing something different. And we find a lot of time that our biggest competition isn't really necessarily Lowe's, Home Depot, another garden center. It's people's time, because I know you guys are busy and we're busy, but I mean that there's a couple weekends for you to really, put your tomatoes in and things like that when you take into account weddings, other activities, graduations, all these different things that, take your time away. 'Cause, I mean, time's our most valuable asset. And then you put a couple rainy days in there, and you may just not grow a tomato garden that year. You may just not do as much as you would have done had you had a whole weekend to, as we say, play in the yard.
Right. That's a really good point, because you really make your money, like you said, spring's the biggest time of the year.
By far.
And so your inventory, you've got to front that. I mean, how many months out are you planning for that? Is it 6 months out, a year out?
9 months to a year out. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, we're pretty dialed in on what we do, and so it takes a good bit of shuffling when you do have that rain and stuff. But I will say that gardeners are pretty determined, because we might have a bad weekend and then we have a Tuesday that's like a Saturday, where everybody, especially these days, is working from home, but really they're at the barn. And
it's convenient for you guys.
Hey, good for me, but
So I mean, that's kind of a good variable to think about. Like, I mean, when you're ordering 9 to 12 months out, do you are there meetings where you guys as a team are talking about like percentage of growth for Chattanooga? Because if you don't get enough inventory, you kind of leave profit on the table, right?
Yeah.
And are you basically ordering more each year, or can you add quickly if you sell out for some reason? Can you add more inventory quickly? Or
so there is flex space for that, but especially like our commercial clients, a lot of our commercial clients, we get them on a schedule, and it helps us planning wise. It helps them cost wise. But I mean, I have blocks of stuff that are grown specifically for, you name the development in Chattanooga. We have probably 24 that we literally have them grown from tissue culture, seed, to finished product, and we have a target date on when they're going to land, and we tell our growers that in August, and we say, hey, this is how many they need and everything. But the other thing there is they all show up in the same stage of growth, so they're all perfectly uniform and look great. So could I find 1,200 sun patients? Absolutely. But they're probably going to be from 3 different growers. And even from 3 different growers, they could be in 7 different growth stages.
Gotcha.
So you could have their May 1 crop, their April 20th crop, and you have some that are this tall, some that are this tall, and
Right.
so I mean, there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and a lot of time. I mean, it takes a learning process, on our side, but also working with our clients and making sure we're getting them, what they need. And that's another reason why it's important to work with the right growers, because there's, I've tried working with other people and they're like, well, it'll actually be ready in 2 weeks. And I'm like, well, it's a good thing I'm not counting on you guys, because my customers have a clear forecast this weekend.
Yeah.
And they're going to buy it from somewhere. So,
Right.
And that's why it's important to always work with good partners that have, good integrity. They have, they have a good product. They stand behind what they're going to do, and they do it. And and then when you get that winning combination, you do rinse and repeat, and then try to make it better.
Yeah.
So,
out of curiosity, how many plants you guys move on an average year?
A lot. No, I mean, it would be well over a million plants.
Wow.
I mean, well, if you just think about a lot of the flats, they have 36 on there, 36 plants, and then we sell 17,000 hanging basket ferns a year, which is a pretty amazing statistic right there.
That's right.
But I mean, the week of Masters Week, we sell about 2,000 azaleas that week alone, which and that's been one of the things also that I've really enjoyed doing. This year we did something for Run the Roses. We got some shirts, put the team in some shirts. Everybody really enjoyed that, and then we had Heart and Hive came out and did some mint julep tea and some bourbon balls and stuff like that. So anything that we can do to kind of create some excitement, because I mean it's I think it was Henry Ford said, if you want to make everybody happy, you can go sell ice cream. Well, we sell the next best thing. We sell plants. So,
Right.
We can't make everybody happy, but we can damn sure try.
Yeah. So, I mean, clearly you guys got a good recipe of like marketing, advertising, and it seems like, I mean, the networking for sure. You seem to like really network well over Chattanooga, but obviously there's some, and the placement. I mean, the placement of the business, that's a huge part. Like great location, great visibility, obviously customer service, people come back. But what else you do in marketing, advertising wise? Like any sort of traditional advertising, like print, billboard, TV, radio, like digital advertising?
So we're doing a little bit of TV right now. We have done some radio, but that's one of the kind of the interesting things that we've kind of went through over the years, because I mean, you're from Chattanooga, I mean, my dad spent a ton of money on radio, TV, billboards, and I mean, that's what really put us on the map. And a lot of my dad's slogans, I know the Free Press did a thing where they said they had top 10 most iconic ads, and I think my dad was either 2 or 3 of those.
Oh, nice.
And it was really cool to see that. But I mean, I mean, when I grew up, I would ask my dad, "Hey, what time is it?" And he'd say, "It's springtime."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, seriously, Dad, what time is it? And then you were getting it springtime or it's fall planting time, and you can forget anything else. And so, anyways, we had such a vast, marketing scheme there, but we had done kind of the same thing for so many years. And actually during COVID, I mean, COVID changed our business forever. And I think it changed most everybody's business that's still in business.
For sure.
Forever, one way or the other. I mean, whether it's working from home or it's a different way of selling or what.
Yeah.
And during that time, it was at the beginning of COVID, and somebody said, Cole, somebody's here to see you. And I mean, we were cranking. We had already decided we were going to build some outdoor cash registers to help kind of set people social distance.
Yeah.
Because, we're coming up on spring. If we don't have a good spring, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, every year, if we don't have a good spring, if we, that's money making season. I mean, that's like having a huge crop failure in a big farm. It's not good.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we were already trying to do the things that we could do, and somebody from Hamilton County and the health department, and we're out in the parking lot, and I mean, we are jamming. I mean, we've got 150 plus cars in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Times are good. Sun's out. I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I see his badge, and I'm like, I don't like the looks of this. And he goes, you got a minute? And I go, I mean, yeah, I think that I need to make a minute even if I don't. And so we went up to the office, and he said, you can't draw a crowd. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what we do here. I mean, like,
right,
that's like, that's not what we want to do. And I was like, okay, well, and he was like, you got to create distance. I was like, well, we're building these outdoor cash registers and everything. And he's like, well, that's great. That's, something hadn't really thought about, and I'm like, well, we're going to close every other register, and that way we'll have it spread out and all these things. But the next thing that brought up was, well, I guess we're not going to be buying our marketing the same way that we do, because he literally told us, that's the one thing that we don't need to do. And so we pulled back on a lot of things that I don't know that we would have ever pulled back on, because, I mean, customers are the lifeblood of your business.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you're just going to quit marketing the way that you have that's put you on the map for this many years. And so when we did that, we switched to a lot more social media, and then, still some billboards and things like that. And we were able to kind of reallocate those funds to a lot of different things. And one of those was, we were able to, do a lot more charitable donations and things like that, things that we feel really good about doing. And, also a way to get our name out there too. But it's, there are always causes that, align with our values. And so, that really shifted the way that all that went. And then also having those outdoor cash registers, we did that out of necessity. We didn't realize it was going to make us more efficient on Saturdays. And it was kind of like having a to-go window at a restaurant. So you have this kind of rolling in, and sometimes we think about our parking spaces in the parking lot like tables at a restaurant.
Yeah.
You want to turn those tables to get more people in.
Makes sense.
And so people could come in, grab what they want, and check out quicker doing that. And so it actually made our big days bigger.
Wow.
So, I mean, there were some happy coincidences that happened there, but that also helped expedite some of the transition between the barn being my dad's and Jim Webster's, and then it being more me. I mean, it's still, my parents are still owners, and, and Gabby and I are owners as well. But, up into that point, at that point I wasn't an owner. But it really forced that transition, because I don't know that, I mean, my dad with the trailer load after trailer load, all those different things from an advertising end, I would have never done it the way that he did it. And so it kind of naturally segued to social media things. And, I didn't really like public speaking or anything. And then, fast forward a couple of years and I can't shut up. So.
I mean, that's definitely an awesome silver lining from that, and hearing that story, God, it gets me fired up, the first part of it, the whole health department with the badge in the first place just fires me up. But then you think about, like, did they even show? Not that I want to steer us in this direction, but I got to open my mouth about it for a second. Like, you think they showed up to Lowe's and Home Depot and they were cracking down on them? Like, those guys never stopped advertising. They were deemed essential.
Yeah, and I mean, and that was one of the first things that I knew they were going to talk about. And one thing people don't realize is we sell at least $500,000 worth of vegetable plants, seeds, and soils that then yield millions of dollars worth of fresh produce to people in the Chattanooga area.
Yeah.
And that just sounded like a really good sound bite. I was like, if that's what we have to hammer away, that's what we will.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, I mean, you can't operate a business like ours without that. It's like operating Six Flags without the summer. I mean, it ain't gonna happen for long.
Right.
Fright Fest only brings in so much.
Yeah.
But I think that it was. It was very trying, and pivoting and doing it. But one of the things that we've always done is we've been opportunistic at a lot of times in purchasing. That's how we got in the pottery business so big. We buy deals, we extend deals to our customers. We also have our high end side, but we've always adapted, and that's where a lot of times where we thrive. I mean, we like with this hellstorm and with COVID. I mean, see a challenge, and I'm like, try to stop us. And I mean, our team is resilient, our family's resilient, and I mean, we've got serious friends and partners. I mean, I had landscapers come and help clean up. From the hailstorm damage, no questions asked. I mean, they were there with blowers and ready to go. And we were open 10 o'clock in the morning when I got there at 5 a.m. and it looked like a war zone.
Man.
So, I mean, things like that are obvious points of pride. It gets my, blood pumping talking about it. But, between COVID and, it's just another thing. And I mean, my dad, he had a 100-year flood the week of Mother's Day, like we did this year back in 2002. And, and at that time, I mean, it was devastating. I mean, could have been the nail in the coffin for us because, he had just bought that property, just did a big expansion, all these things, and also didn't have flood insurance at the time. He didn't even know he didn't have it. So, I mean, that was like, $500,000 loss at that time. And so, for us, I mean, we've, if our customers start saying one thing, we have to try to, adjust to it. And, so far that's one of the things that we can do that Lowe's and Home Depot can't do. We can change our whole campaign
quickly.
Yeah, very quickly within an hour
Yeah.
if we need to. And I've got a great in-house team that, makes all our signage and everything. And, one of the most amazing things, and I do believe that God puts the right people in your life and your business at different times. And, I mean, one of the lady that does all my in-house signage, she came to work part-time for us. Now she's a manager, but she came to work part-time because she had a marketing company where she does mainly print stuff and things like that.
Yeah.
But one day we had just lost somebody that was making all our signs, and I'm in there, and I'm just stubborn enough to figure it out. But, the sign, like, the price on the sign was this big. The picture was this big. I mean, it did not look right, but you could tell what plant it was at what price. And She goes, "Do you want me to do that?" And I mean, like I said, she's working part-time as, helping in our houseplant room. And I'm like, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
And then she goes, fixes it. Everything looks how it, she's a graphic designer. It looks like it's supposed to. And I'm like, how did you know how to do that? She's like, well, I've had my own graphic design company for 30 years. And I'm like, okay, maybe I have you doing the wrong thing right now, but she still takes care of all our houseplants and does all that. But I mean, we've got a really good team, and everybody kind of, we all work together and use our unique, strengths. And luckily, I have people that take up for all my weaknesses, a lot of the time. So
you got to surround yourself with those sort of people,
Exactly.
Definitely a good sign of like a good business, a good team, good leader. Whenever you can navigate things like the flood in 2002 you're talking about, like COVID, like you're having to, some things are out of our control, and it's just figuring out how you can get around that.
Yeah. Well, and we've always said the weather and the government are the two things that my dad said. Has always said, you'll never hear me bitch about. You'll never hear me bitch about the competition. You'll never hear me bitch about the economy. But I can't do anything about weather, and I can't do anything about the government. Because at one time, TDOT had shut down our exit 4 weekends in a row during spring. And this is back in the day. I mean, and we were way more seasonal then than we are now.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was very, very trying. But outside of things like that, and it raining every weekend, other than that, our biggest competitions are ourselves and people's time.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Now, some of the nonprofits that you're involved in, I know you guys started Lana's Love.
Yep.
In honor of your sister.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear some about that, because that's been around for quite a while. When did you guys start that?
So it started in 2006 when my sister passed away. I had just turned 16. My brother had just turned 19 when she passed, and he had went away to college, West Georgia, where I ended up going. And anyways, at that time, my parents kind of saw, and got to give both of them credit. You'll never hear me not give them credit, but the vision that they had for Lana's Love, and seeing all these other families that they can't do some of the things that we could do. And so now, like, we have monthly large events for the families. We also, Jennifer Greer brings food into the clinic on a weekly basis. We also have taken over this is actually a really cool story. I'll come back to it, but we have monthly events. We also started a dad's group about a year and a half ago, which is really great. Every other month we get the dads together. Once a month, the moms get together, and there's a grief group for children that for mothers that their children have passed. And then there's an active mothers group there that we do. So what we try to do is we try to love on the whole family. And that's one of the things that I saw there when one of the reasons why my parents got the idea is we had went to Disney World with a group of families when my sister was getting treatment in New York. And they met at the Ronald McDonald House, and there was a guy that took down all these families every year, and he collected donations. He was a super of a building in New York with a lot of really wealthy people that donated to that. But what I saw out of it, and my passion in Lana's Love, and that's one of the reasons why I've been involved in the dad's group, is and I'm a huge networking guy. You know that, but and I mean, strength in numbers and just having other people there, I mean, is what makes me happy in life. But also what we've been able to do there is kind of create a network for these families. I remember when I went to Disney and I met the other siblings of children that are going through cancer. I didn't have to explain to them what I'm going through. And we could kind of just it's like instantly, I mean, every now and then you meet somebody and maybe y'all really love to mountain bike or whatever, but you just click, or, maybe you like the same football team or whatever. And real quickly, hey, we're pretty much, we're in this thing together, or we're cut from the same cloth, or whatever it may be. And having that experience with those those kids was really important for me because, being a teenager, being a kid's tough. And then when your sibling gets, a deadly illness, I mean, it's tough enough being a kid, and then, feeling, taken care of or whatever. And then obviously, I mean, my parents are wonderful people, but, a lot of the attention has to go to the child that's sick. And so one of the things that my parents saw, I mean, they always took a lot of time with us, but they also, saw that and were like, we want to make this about the whole family. So whether we're at Lake Winnie, whether we're at Ruby Falls, Rock City for the Christmas lights, the aquarium, the zoo, all these partners that also, a lot of them are Creative Discovery Museum. A lot of them are also clients at the Barn Nursery. And it all kind of, it's been really interesting to kind of get to work with these people on all different fronts. And I mean, we just have amazing community partners, and these families don't have to pay for anything. And so back at the beginning of this year, I don't know if you know Clay Kistner Paving.
I know that name. I don't know him personally
though. Well, we had went to lunch together, and we went to Common House, and he was like, I want to be involved in Lana's Love, and I've got a little bit of money from a bonus coming in for finishing a project quickly, and he said, I want to donate that to Lana's Love. And he's like, but I don't know, if y'all have something specific y'all want to do. And I was like, well, I mean, we're going to talk about it at some point. How much is that? And he said, it's $10,000. And what he didn't know is about a month previous to that, there was a family that had started something called Sarah's Snacks, where provide snacks in the clinic for children that are going through treatment and their families. And they've got it set up. They've got a vending machine that has fake coins to put in it, so they can get their snacks out. Some refrigerated, some not refrigerated, and so have that, has drinks and everything. And the family came to me and Holly Scholl, and was like, hey, Holly's our director, and said, we can't do this anymore. It's taken up a lot of our ton of our time, and has for years. And, we're getting older, and, it's getting outside of our wheelhouse. And I said, sure, we'll take it over. Like, we'll do what we have to do. Like, and we got the numbers back. It was like right around $10,000 a year that they were spending on this. And I was like, we'll fund it. I was like, I don't know, whether, we have to, dip into something, or like, and I said, or maybe we'll even find a donor that wants to do this. And I told Clay what we were doing, and he goes, that's what I want to do. And so, I mean, there was this void for a month, and then somebody steps up to the plate and does that. And that's been one of the really cool things, because we have such a direct impact on it, and we don't have like a crazy overhead. We don't have a crazy like board process that where everything has to go through this, and this. I could kind of do what I do and you do every day. Is like, okay, that aligns with our mission. Why would we not do that? Like, we can't not do that.
Right.
And so, that things like that are, super fulfilling. But it's incredible, how much of the time, Lana's Love, and the barn, like we kind of overlap, or somebody will call me and be Holly or Jennifer will call me about something with the lookouts or something like that. And I'm like, well, we just did their planners, this week, and let me talk to somebody or something, and then they're like, yeah, we would love to help with this or that, and it's just I know a lot of people are like, why did you take on that role? I know you've got too much on your plate anyways, and it's actually been one of those things that it's actually simplified some things, because I can kind of, a lot of the time the right people are talking,
Yeah.
And as you know, that's a difficult thing a lot of the time, especially with organizations.
Yeah, especially nonprofits. Like we're talking earlier before this, and not going to go into all the negatives of it, but there's a lot of nonprofits out there, just too many chefs in the kitchen, in my opinion. And it's just the epitome of inefficiency. And I know we've met on some boards or on some organizations in the past, and that I won't mention, but it gets frustrating as we're both technically, running small businesses, which small businesses, I had to look this up the other day because it always changes, with inflation, but they're saying like, depending on who you ask, between 1 to 40, some say $1 to $100 million revenue, and under 250 employees. So small business is still a sizable business, but independently owned, operated, like there's a lot of things we got to do. We have to be efficient. And then sometimes you get part of these organizations and you try to give your time, and it's just so frustrating to watch, like, all the people that are collecting paychecks and nonprofits are making great money.
Yeah.
And then they sit on these boards and they all just have ideas and they micromanage everyone they bring in. And it's like, if you let some people just do some work without the professional nonprofit hires, and I know I'm kind of shitting on them, but man, there's some great ones out there, but there's some that are very frustrating to watch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are so many great nonprofits out there, but, it makes me think of something that, when I first got on planning commission for City of Chattanooga in the Hamilton County, which I'm actually rolling off of this next month and going into a different role. But at that time, I had a conversation with somebody that was also on planning commission, and we started talking, and he was down at the barn on a busy Saturday, and I forget what 3 decisions I had to make real quick, but it was, I think, opening up some additional parking, opening up an additional register, and just quick little things that you do on a given day, or giving somebody a warranty that didn't have a receipt or whatever it was. And he saw me do all that over the radio in 2 minutes, and he's like, so how are you enjoying this? And I'm like, really, like, am loving it, but it's so different for me and what I do. And he said, he's like, the most efficient business you'll ever see is one guy with a pickup truck, a mower, and a weed eater. There's no hierarchy.
Right.
Just cutting grass. We're doing what we need to do. And every level of business that it gets bigger, because it happens in my business, the bigger you get, the more bureaucracy you have. Sure. And he said, and the most inefficient is government.
Yeah.
And so since he said that, it's really kind of put things into perspective for me. And even though I knew that, it kind of solidified that in my mind of, hey, well, there's an HOA for a reason, there's checks and balances for a reason, but there are some times where those reasons still seem insane. It's like the billing vol. It's like, when there's a stupid rule, somebody somewhere did something stupid, along the way that to make it where, hey, oh yeah, we have to have, these checks and balances in place, but it can be completely debilitating. And if you're somebody that, that you cut the head off the snake, is what we say. And one of those things, going back to a conversation we had earlier about, us kind of having the same meeting every year. One of the things that my dad always says, he brings up a Ross Perot story of talking about cutting the head off the snake. And Ross Perot, he was talking about why General Motors Are you familiar with Ross Perot?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. And so he was served on the board for General Motors, and they were talking about General Motors at that time had lost money, and Honda was just killing it at the time.
Yeah.
And they said, he's like, well, it's just inefficiencies. And they said, what do you mean? He's like, okay, well, for instance, he's like, if somebody sees a snake in the GM plant, they'll see it and somebody will be like, hey, somebody needs to kill that snake. And they're like, that's not my job description. And which is when he also says, well, that's one of the things that can get you hired around here is saying that's not my job, because I've scrubbed a toilet this week. I've plunged a toilet in the past month.
Yeah.
If it's if I can do it, anyone else can do it, and there's not a job there that I haven't done.
Sure.
But the story goes on to say, so they have to talk to management, and then management has to talk to the board to approve funding to hire an outside service. So by this time, they get the outside service to come in, and it's Bob's Pest Control. They come in and they look at it and they say, well, this is a poisonous snake. It's going to cost extra. And because of the bylaws, the company bylaws, because it's a venomous snake, they then have to hire an expert. So they hire an expert that comes in, and by this time, they identify the snake. They said, well, it is a poisonous snake, so they have to shut down the factory. The union goes on strike, and they all want a raise because they're working in hazardous conditions. And so they have to hire this company to come in, and then they determine that they have hatched eggs, and now there's a ton of snakes, so you have to renegotiate the contract because we only have a contract to kill one snake, not 20 snakes.
Right.
And by the time they kill the snake and get them out of there, and the union has to get the raises approved and everything, it's cost General Motors over $1 billion. And when they saw the snake in Honda, the janitor sees the snake. He goes over to his tools. He grabs a square-pointed shovel, cuts the head off the snake, puts it in the dumpster. Nobody ever hears about it again. And
it's so true.
And I know that's a really convoluted story, and I don't tell it as good as Jim Webster. I'll tell you that. But it's so true though about the boards that you're talking about and government or whatever. That the greatest thing about a small business, and I know a lot of the companies that I use, my vendors that we outsource. I don't know if you know Andy Shy with Time and Pay. We outsource our payroll to them, and I had talked to Paychex. We had previously been with ADP, and we had already been with all the big outfits. And I talked to somebody locally, and they were kind of a franchise of another company, and I wasn't really sure that guy was going to be with the company for very long. And the next meeting I went to, I had a meeting with Andy. We went up to Sugar's Ribs for lunch, and he explains, he sounded pretty much exactly like me at the time. He's like, my dad started the company. He's like, I'm taking it over. I'm doing this, this, and this. And I go, okay, and what's your degree in, whatever? And I'm like, so you don't want any other options, do you? He's like, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm like, do you answer your damn phone? And he goes, yeah. And I go, good, we're going to use you. and he's like, don't you want to know pricing? Don't you want to know this? And I was like, I mean, as long as it's somewhat in line, and it was, but it's like, I want to deal with people. I want to deal with, and when there's a problem, there needs to be somebody I can call, and that'll take care of it. And there's no reason why, problems, issues have to get all complicated, because if you keep it simple, stupid, that's just the best way to do it, because most issues just aren't that complicated when you really kind of dumb it down a little bit.
Absolutely. And that's really a shift I've seen right now in marketing advertising for our clients and for businesses that I work with. Mm-hmm. And just, I think as a nation, when it comes down to what we call local businesses. Like we're a local business because we sell mainly to our local population surrounding us. If you look us up on Google, we're going to be in that map area because we're providing a service locally, whether it's plants or marketing, advertising services or whatever. We see this a lot in, of course, blue collar world. And whenever you came to the office earlier, I was getting finally someone to go to my house with a new plumbing company. Last night I spent close to 30 minutes between automated AI bots on text messages. Someone called me, I missed the call, and the phone number went back to a automated voice person that could put me in a loop indefinitely after I gave all my information for a second time. Then more text messages came through and put all my information again. And then this morning, a person said, "Oh, sorry, we were closed. I need all this information," and none of it's relevant to anything. Like I just needed a real simple job. It's going to take an hour. Someone come out. They're probably going to charge me a few $100s for it. Whatever. It's in and out. It's easy money for them. And finally, after all of it, they had the same questions again. And I was like, "Hey, I've already answered all these questions, and I know I've been on, AI is handling this, and we do it for our customers too. But can I just get someone for a quote? You can call me." And like, "No, I have to have all these questions answered, or I can't book your time for a quote." I said, "Well, thank you for wasting my time." That's at this point close to 45 minutes. And I know I'm sounding a little pretentious saying it, but when we're as busy as we are, and it's 45 minutes, and it's like, if they would have just said, "Hey, hold on, let me call you right now," and someone would have been on the phone and be like, "Hey, I'm sorry about all that. Let me get you booked right now. We're testing new systems," or whatever it may be.
Or go ahead and take my money for the call.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's going to be a $50 call visit. Go ahead and do it.
No
like,
problem.
Whatever,
Just make it easy for me. So what did I do? I said, "You know what? Never mind. And I'm going to let people know about my experience because this is frustrating, And I hate to be that Karen, that does that. I don't know what the male version of Karen is. Maybe like a Chad or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I called another one, and they picked up the phone as a real person, and that felt so good because like a real person. And I was like, "Hey, this is a small job. I understand you may not want it, but I need a dishwasher reconnected, a rental property, and a disposal put in because we had new floors and cabinets. It's already there, plumbed. It's not gonna be a big one, but is this something you guys understand?" "Oh yeah, we'd love to take care of that. What's your address? We'll get someone out there tomorrow." And it felt so good. It was in and out, off the phone. It's easy. Like, I'm going to give them a great review because that was such a good experience. So all that to say, like, I'm noticing this across a lot of our clients, especially in the home service space, because if people want to deal locally, they would rather have that personal experience versus like that big corporate feel where you're on hold for a long time and all that. It kills that personal touch. So sometimes I'm seeing like this new technology, especially the AI buzzword everyone's using, it's kind of messing things up for companies. You're losing that. Like, of course, every company needs to work on being more efficient, and you can use AI in great ways. But
I think that you just hit the nail on the head. You can use it in great ways. You can do certain things very well, and I think that there's a lot of things that people are getting a little far ahead of themselves with this or that, and I can think of some good examples, but I think it would be too revealing. I think that there's a lot of people that, you just overcomplicate things, or you think, hey, and a lot of the time, I think that the reason why we're not in my business, and sounds like in the plumbing business, why real people are not very easily replaceable is because it's a case-by-case basis. 80% of your calls may fill into this one area, but that's still 20% of your calls where that you need to talk to somebody and just talk through the issue, and it's really not that complicated. But a lot of times everybody wants to bottleneck everything. Okay, I need all your information. I need all this from you. I need all this. And you're like, no, you don't. You just need to know the address of the job, my name, my phone number, and I'll pay you.
Yeah.
That's it. And if you get in there and you have to, you have to order another part, or you have to get another part off the truck, you just have to call me and get it approved. It's really not that complicated. And I think that a lot of people, more than anything, I think people are afraid of communicating. Yeah. And I think that, and I'm not I'm not the best communicator in the world because, there's so many different things going on that some of the time I know I fall flat on my face in that category. But I think that people are afraid to pick up the phone. I think that, that there are a lot of people that are afraid to do that. And I think that is one of the reasons why a lot of things are kind of funneled into one place. But I mean, how much more can you do with people that, when you have a lasting relationship? How many of your clients own other businesses you didn't even know that they owned, that you're now doing more business or more work for that business than the first one you started with? I find that on like my commercial end all the time. We're talking about one project and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be pretty good. And they're like, hey, I need you on this over here. And I'm like, whoa, I had no idea you were involved in this or whatever. I mean, and that's the other thing. I mean, you never know who's on the other end of the phone. And that's why you got to treat everybody, the same and great.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if they're spending $5 or $50,000. I mean, every dollar counts. Every customer, every person's important. So,
yeah. Well, it seems definitely paid off for you guys.
Yeah.
Done well. So it's awesome to see. Got any big plans for the 60th?
I don't. Haven't even really thought about it yet. But
still got a year and a half.
Yeah.
It needs to be a big party or something like that. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think we need to start planning.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Man, anything else you want to say? It's been a good conversation. Anything you missed?
No, man. I'm just happy you invited me out, and happy that I was able to spend some time with you. And it's just been really cool to see, you grow your business and the things you do in the community as well. And just happy to be able to call you a friend.
Yeah,
so, thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. It's awesome to hear the story and all information. And, awesome you guys have been so successful. It's good to see you grow. And I like seeing all our social media posts. That's definitely been a good part of the business, and you guys are crushing it. So, it's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again.
Absolutely.